Well, everybody remembers where they were.
It could have happened yesterday, and the memories are that real.
I remember our director coming upstairs and saying, "Go home, go get your son. We've just been attacked."
First thing I remember before seeing the images was panicked parents coming into the school and just picking up their kids and running out the door.
I just remember being in my office, actually on the phone with a good college friend after the first plane attacked the first building. And we sat there and we watched the plane hit the other building, and immediately we knew something was dearly wrong.
I lost a very good friend on 9/11. He was a student when I was teaching. He was a colleague when we worked in the Defense Department together, and he was a friend. He was on American Airlines Flight 77.
I do remember hearing all the sonic beepers that were on the firefighters that passed away. So, kind of hit home because on a smaller scale, being in the fire department and understanding what that meant. So that was real to me.
We learned too about stories about those who didn't make it, and I'm reminded particularly of Chris Murphy, who had just moved to Talbot County with his family, and his wife, cousin of mine, tells me that there was no better place that she could have been but here in Talbot County, because she had connections here. She had grown up here and felt so supported, so wrapped in the support that this community gives.
For me, wrestling with that whole scenario that I was faced with being up there, I was struggling trying to make sense of what I was seeing. And, I was seeing this horrible pile of carnage and everybody from all over the country racing and trying to scramble to make a difference when there was no difference to be made.
Nobody knew what was going on. There wasn't a lot of answers to begin with, rightfully so, because this was uncharted territory for the United States.
It was a horrible day that we should never forget. And it's important that we take the opportunity each year to recognize it, so those that weren't around on 9/11, 2001, remember that day.
My dad is a police officer, so he has more, vivid memories of certain things that he was thinking about at the time. He distinctly remembers not being able to hear any airplanes in the sky afterwards.
My wife at the time was 6 months pregnant with my daughter, and it made me just think about what type of a world she's going to be born into.
We're 22 years on, and the younger generations are coming up, and they don't really have the same perspective on it as people who lived through it. So we hope to ensure that memory doesn't fade.
I learned about Pearl Harbor in school, and I learned about Pearl Harbor from veterans who experienced that and lived through that. And what's important for us, the survivors, the people that have firsthand knowledge, is to share that wisdom, to share that experience, and try to explain it to future generations.
As I've grown older, I've definitely started to understand how the world has shifted since that event, and especially in the United States when it comes to emergency preparedness. And being prepared in case there is an emergency like that or a crisis like that in the future.
What was striking to me is how people came together. And I remember, I would wear a t-shirt that said, at the time it was Ocean City Emergency Services, but cars beeping, horns, free taxi rides, people offering to buy you lunch. I remember thinking at the time, if there was some way we could take this goodness and just put it in a capsule and slowly let it just release on everywhere, it would be great, because it was a time where we came together as a country.
Probably one of the reasons I'm a state delegate now. It really focused me on wanting to provide service back to my community.
With my son, as he grew up, being young when 9/11 happened, I think that was one of the reasons why he decided to go into the military. And so, after that, he joined the Army and really wanted to help his country.
When you have a crisis, big or small, and we learned it again during COVID, what's important are those connections that you have day to day, because in a crisis situation, those are the people you need to reach out to, and you need them to reach out to you and to everyone in your community.
So we're very proud to be a partner in the 9/11 Day grant project, because it allows us to talk about the importance of community preparedness.
Much of our western part of the county is just above sea level.
We've had, 100-year storms a number of times within the last decade.
Flooding is now a way of life. What used to be a major flood is now ordinary, course of business.
We have a lot of elderly in our district, in our areas, and you always want to keep an eye on them to make sure that they're safe. And we have to get them out of harm's way. If that means that we have to put them in our big F-150 trucks to get them out and through the floodwaters, then we'll do that.
Another one, living in a historic area too, might be incidences of fire that could easily spread from, one home to another. Thankfully, we have the Easton Volunteer Fire Department and the local agencies around us that are quick to respond.
Our community needs your help. Local fire departments, EMS, and local police departments need people to serve. And just like that fateful day in 2001, there is a great demand for everyday people to volunteer and help their neighbors.
The Department of Emergency Services has a program called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team.
Empowering the community and teaching them how to respond, how they can be responders in time of crisis.
Through that course, you learn basic fire extinguishing techniques and search and rescue, basic first aid, CPR.
Hopefully instills a sense of empowerment in them when there's a crisis, but also a sense of calmness, because they know that they can be, they can be powerful in that moment. They can take care of others.
We had the heart defibrillator stations around the county that are a big deal.
One other thing that we do as a local management board is we're required to maintain a resource directory for the county, so that's our Healthy Talbot initiative. It's both online and in print, and it's our effort to catalog and list all of the services that are out there to help support the folks that live in our communities.
We'll also be handing out journals that will allow you to go through that checklist for your family and write down what is your emergency plan, what is your evacuation route.
Our government certainly has an important role to play in keeping us safe and resilient, but there's still a tremendous amount of work that we can do one-on-one in our neighborhoods, in the organizations we're involved in, our churches, through our schools.
And there's so many things that you can do to be prepared in a community. It could be creating a emergency plan for your family. It could be creating an emergency kit that has water and food for several days if you were without power.
What we have each day when we have peace is precious.
Somebody once told me being there is just being involved is half of the battle. And showing up. When you show up, you put your name on the paper, you're halfway there.
When people come together, good things happen.
The grant is sponsored in part by AmeriCorps and the Arc of the United States, and it's the 9/11 Service Project. And basically what they want you to do is go out and communicate to everyone how do you get help in your community, how you can be a helper in your community. When a crisis strikes, what are you going to do?
This grant has been a great opportunity to share the wealth, share the resources. I am a one-man department, so I certainly would not have been able to do something like this without the support of the grant. But also having the partners of the town of Easton and the Talbot Young Professionals, Easton Economic Development Corporation, all of those people that helped put this project together has made it quite more vibrant than it would have been by itself.
It was such a great event to be involved with, to be involved with the community, with the kids, to make a difference right here.
Thanks to all of our grant sponsoring partners in helping create a better community here in Talbot County.
It's been 22 years since 9/11. As the terror fades, what remains is community. We all remember where we were that terrible day, and we all remember who we called first. That is the important part of this project, is to remember that in this community, we are ready to take care of each other and we will respond. We are Talbot Ready.
We are Talbot Ready.
We are Talbot Ready.
We are Talbot Ready.
Are you Talbot Ready?